Hi, how you going?
Prime Minister, almost everyone we've spoken to at the booths has said that cost of living is an issue for them.
We know that cost of living pressures are there.
I'll just run straight through. They've only seen the bill at the checkout, they've only seen the bill at the Bowser go up and up and up under Labor.
The reduction in costs of pharmaceuticals, in cheaper childcare.
Just what motivates people's votes in a by-election is always a matter of some contention. Is it a referendum on the government? Is it all about local issues? The Coalition's historic loss of the seat of Aston in Melbourne's southeast seems to have been neither. The Coalition told voters that Labor's policies were fuelling inflation during the biggest cost of living shock in most people's lifetime, and lost.
People's perception of the economy is worse now than I've ever seen it. It's all about the hip pocket, and people get bill shock every day. Every day they go to the grocery, do the grocery shopping, every time they get a bill, interest rates. There is a large segment of swinging voters who are just being hit really hard.
Every decision that Labor has taken economically over the course of the last 10 months has driven up the cost of living pressures on families and on small businesses.
Saturday's result suggests voters didn't buy the Coalition cost of living message.
The fact that it's all about cost of living would normally be gold for an opposition. I think at the moment, though, given where we're at in the electoral cycle, Labor don't own the economy. They're still seen as relatively new, and so they're not blamed or don't own any of those issues.
In addition to the big picture message on cost of living, there was also a campaign at the local level, conducted mostly on Facebook.
I'm a mum with a mortgage living in the outer eastern suburbs.
I'm a mum. I've got a young family. I'm a working woman.
Aston is one of those very difficult electorates to communicate, and in particular to narrowcast, because it doesn't have dedicated television stations, radio stations like, say, a regional seat like Eden Monero. And so consequently, you really have to broadcast more than narrowcast. And in modern campaigning, that's a problem.
A candidate parachuted in from the other side of Melbourne, 45 kilometres away, was always going to have to work that little bit harder, no matter what her qualities.
I do love chocolate on Stud Road in Wantirna.
Why did Peter Dutton handpick Rashina Campbell from Brunswick as his candidate for Aston?
Particularly given Labor's focus on the unpopularity of Peter Dutton.
What do we know about Peter Dutton? His party rejected him as leader twice.
It is one thing for voters to not punish the government for a cost of living shock. It's another for voters to punish the opposition by tipping them out of a seat regarded as heartland. Peter Dutton's answer has been that it is largely about Victoria.
Victoria is the one state that we've never held a majority of seats in, and there are huge issues for us at a state level as well. So many lessons, including for me and for our party.
The Victorian Liberal Party is one of the worst divisions in the country, and it was unfortunate for Peter Dutton that that's where the by-election happened to be. And the consequence is that now the Victorian Liberal Party, particularly some of its state MPs, are playing on the fringes.
After taking a sustained high-profile position on many so-called culture wars issues, it seems significant that Peter Dutton became a much smaller target ahead of the by-election. As controversy raged about a Liberal MP attending an anti-trans rally in Melbourne, the opposition leader appeared to avoid the media for a week. In Parliament, Peter Dutton conspicuously failed to ask a question during question time on the day the government sealed a deal with the Greens on climate change policy, which the opposition opposed. And when the government introduced legislation for the constitutional referendum on the voice on Thursday, he was absent, citing a long-standing meeting.
They're not connecting. They're not connecting with where swinging voters are at, where Middle Australia is at. And they've lost credibility with them. Not only does that make them not electable and not worth voting for, as we saw on Saturday, it just means people aren't really listening to them.
The opposition leader's sudden absence on issues such as climate change and the voice last week suggested he grasped this point. But in the wake of the disastrous poll on Saturday, he seemed to be digging in.
Well, if you're asking me about the fundamentals of our party, they're not going to change. We have a proven track record when we're in government.
Peter Dutton inherited a lot of the problems that we find in the Liberal Party today, but it's his problem to fix. It is like turning around a cargo ship. It's not easy to do. It can't be quickly done. He's certainly the clock is ticking. It's a seminal moment for the Liberal Party. At the moment, the Liberal Party base is narrowing. It's basically comprised of over 50s and asset class holders. And in that respect, you can't win an election on that sort of base.